Well, we continue with this morning's edition of News and Views, the Friday edition. We're going across now to be joined by independent writer and researcher SurayaDadoo. We're talking Rising for Palestine, co-authored by or co-editor of Rising for Palestine. Suraya, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you and welcome.
Walaikum salam Inayat and Jummah Mubarak to you and all of your listeners and viewers on Salam Media. Thank you for having
Well,
me.
Surya, once again, congratulations, Mubarak to you on co-editing another book, Rising for Palestine. But, this book obviously asks many, many critical questions, and particularly when one looks at the fight for liberation, the liberation struggle as we know it, and we know Palestine has set the standard. Palestine has been the benchmark for liberation for a very, very long time. But when we talk about a shared fight for liberation and looking at the African continent as well, we have also been victims of colonialism. We've been victims of genocide. There's just so much that one can actually unpack when one looks at this book in particular.
Yeah, so this book exactly addresses the questions and the issues that you've just raised. Because what Rising for Palestine does is to underscore the fact that we shouldn't see the issues unfolding and the crises, the genocide in Eastern Congo, for example, Sudan, a previous genocide in Namibia, Western Sahara, and Palestine. These are not isolated cases. They are all part of an interconnected struggle. It's an interconnected system of colonialism, of imperialism, of exploitation. And so this book is as much about Africa as it is about Palestine. And the aim really is to show that Palestine and all of the different catastrophes, eras of colonialism, or any kind of exploitation and imperialism in Africa, they are all connected. And what we wanted to do, my co-editor, Algerian researcher and writer Raouf Farah and I, what we wanted to do was bring together for the first time various African voices and a diverse range of Palestinian voices. And we are essentially in conversation with each other about not only the past, but the present and the future of Africa-Palestine solidarity.
Well, absolutely. And I think, Surya, just, in connecting or linking this with Africa, and, you speak about history as well. And there is quite a rich history in terms of the ties between Africa, some of the most powerful liberation movements and personalities on the African continent, and Palestine.
Yes, so the book is essentially an attempt to revive Africa's tradition of internationalism. And as you said, and it's something that Raouf has written about, it's something that Saleh Hijazi from the BDS movement has written about in this book, that there is a very long, deep-seated history of solidarity with Palestine. I mean, the state of Palestine as such, Palestine was proclaimed on African soil in Algeria. Some of the very earliest Palestinian embassies were established in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, and throughout the continent. So there's a very long history of solidarity and support between African liberation movements, African governments, and the Palestinian struggle. But what we've seen in recent times is an erosion of that support. Most notably, of course, it would be the fact that Israel at one point achieved observer status at the African Union. And so this book attempts to unpack what that support was and why it is that it's weakened. And so what I've done, I've, for example, written about the impact of Christian Zionism and the way in which that has weakened African solidarity with Palestine. We have another contributor, Yotam Gidron, who looks at the history of Africa-Israel relations. There's Kripsu Diallo, who looks at the ways in which Israeli surveillance technology, field-tested on Palestinians, is then exported to African governments to suppress protest, to repress Africans in those countries. So we look at issues from very different perspectives, and there's a very diverse range of voices. So, for example, we have Jefta Ngwarimo, who looks at the parallels between the Namibian genocide, and he recounts the genocide of his own family and compares it to the genocide that is currently unfolding in Palestine. Kambale Musavuli from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, he's an excellent Congolese activist, and I really do urge your listeners and your viewers to follow Kambale for very accurate news on Congo. He unpacks and exposes how it's some of the very same Israeli corporations and Israeli systems that exploit Palestinian natural resources. They are involved in what they call extractivism and in the exploitation of Congolese resources, which is really at the heart of the conflict in the Congo. Western Sahara, we have Ambassador Melanie Lakau, who unpacks and shows how Western Sahara is Palestine's African twin. We also have the late Sudanese activist Muzan Al-Nil, who looks at the ways in which Sudanese resistance is dehumanized and very similarly as Palestinian resistance is. So there's a multitude of voices. I mean, Zahid Rajan from Kenya, he tells us exactly what doing Palestine solidarity work in Kenya is like, how that evolved, and what the future of Palestine, of the Palestine solidarity movement in Kenya is. So the aim really is to not just be trapped in the past and sort of pat ourselves on the back about Africa's deep-seated historic solidarity with Palestine, but to look at what is happening currently on the ground now in many sub-Saharan African countries. We also have a whole range of North African writers who contribute. Hamza Hamouchine, he's Algerian. He looks at environmental issues and the fact that climate justice needs to be at the center of many struggles. SurayaDadoo, who is the coordinator of the South African BDS movement, she examines what the contradictions in South Africa's foreign policy is. So the book tackles some difficult questions as well. It isn't just praise singing about Africa and African movements. We ask some very difficult questions as well.
Yes, Surya. The fact that we have this multitude of contributions that are contained in the book, and the fact that we also have got these scholars, academics, intellectuals, activists right across the entire African continent, and it's important to appreciate what they are doing, the type of work they are doing, but more importantly, the message that is being sent out. And I think this is where the concern is on the African continent at this point in time. Like you correctly pointed out, you've got a country like Israel making massive inroads into a number of countries already. We've seen a number of African countries where even Palestinian protests are banned, actually, and
Yes.
people are stopped from protesting. And this book obviously would go a long way in once again reigniting that spark. And I suppose that possibly could be one of the key purposes or key drivers behind this book as well, Surya.
Yeah, the fact that you mentioned that there's Palestine solidarity work being conducted across the continent. I think what tends to happen is in the conversation about Africa-Palestine solidarity, South Africa tends to dominate that conversation, and rightly so. I mean, the words and actions of the government matter. They're very significant and meaningful. I mean, the most obvious one being the ICJ case against Israel. But it's important as well, and my work across sub-Saharan Africa has exposed me to amazing Palestine solidarity work being done in Kenya, in Ghana, in Nigeria, Zimbabwe, in Namibia, all through East, West, and Southern Africa. And so what we felt was there was a need to amplify those voices and to let people know that it isn't just South Africa where there's a very vibrant and hardworking Palestine solidarity movement. I mean, Zaid Rajan, he talks exactly about the fact that despite having significant government repression of Palestine work, those activists keep going, and they're making, they're achieving some notable victories in terms of boycott, divestment, and sanction. So there was a need for that to expose the diversity and what exactly is happening across the continent, not just in South Africa. The other issue around, getting the bigger picture is that the book also has a diversity of Palestinian voices. So, I mean, from Hamas, Dr. Bassem Naim, I interviewed him. The Palestinian ambassador to Cote d'Ivoire, Ambassador Abdel Karim Aweda, Rouf has a really good interview with him. Saleh Hijazi from the BDS movement is included in this anthology. We also have Maha Abdallah and Shad Humuri, who are very talented and notable Palestinian scholars. Fatih Nima, who is with the Al Shabaka Research Program. And we also have contributions from two Palestinian poets, Darin Tatur and Marwan Makul. So, we really want there to be a wide representation of both Palestinian and African voices. And I think we've achieved that in terms of the book.
Yes, Surya. And also, I think what is important is, the inspiration that a book like this would bring, and also reminding us that we cannot work in silos when it comes
Yes.
to the Palestinian struggle. It requires a unified effort and an African voice. A unified African voice on Palestine can be a very powerful voice.
Oh, absolutely. That I think is the main message of the book. Exactly what you've just said. That we can't isolate our own struggles. It really is part of an interconnected system of exploitation, of colonialism. And because it's part of that interconnected system, the solution then is to be part of an interconnected system of solidarity. And I mean, we hope that in terms of African solidarity, the book exposes us to other countries. And in terms of Palestinians as well, there's a whole range of Palestinian voices. So we really do want people to approach this really from a Pan-African perspective, and also from if I could coin the phrase, a Palestinian perspective as well, because we really do need all Palestinian voices represented here.
Yes. Surya, just as far as the book is concerned, its availability.
So, Rising for Palestine is available online from Mzansi Books, from Exclusive Books, from any online bookseller and retailer. You can get it at physical bookstores. It's published by Pluto Press, so you can also get an ebook. And if anybody has any difficulty getting a hold of the book, I'd urge you to contact myself or the publisher in South Africa, which is Blue Weaver, and I'll happily assist you in obtaining a copy.
Well, shukran for that.
I'd also just like to add that tomorrow, on Saturday, I will be in conversation with the Palestine Solidarity Movement at the Kazakamba Pan-African Theatre Festival at the Market Theatre in Johannesburg at 3 p.m. So, I mean, if any of your listeners or viewers want to sort of expand on the Pan-Africanism and the Pan-African approach of the book, I do hope to see them at the Market Theatre tomorrow at 3 p.m. in Johannesburg.
Well, inshallah, shukran for that, and also for your time, Surya. Wishing you all the best, and once again, congratulations, Mubarak, as well. Another milestone, obviously, has been achieved by you co-editing this book, but I'm sure it will go a long way in terms of not only conscientizing us, but the African continent as well, and keep us inspired. Keep up the good work. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
SurayaDadoo with us this morning, co-editor, Rising for Palestine, Africa's shared fight for liberation. With it, we're going to go for a break. We come back. It's time for Juma Inspirations.